we figured out pretty quickly that we really loved
the hospitality,
moving guests. Like, not just they walk in, this is a beautiful place.
Yeah.
But they walk in and it is, this house is for them that weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And moving them with the music that's playing, with the welcome sign that is, where we've gotten to know them a little bit before they've arrived. And just that is what really I love about this industry. I love the real estate. Yeah. I love, so proud of what we've done with our places, but that's what I really love.
Hi, I'm Wyatt. And I'm Grace. And you're listening to Our Dad and your host of the Vacation Rental Revolution podcast.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Vacation Rental Revolution podcast. I'm your host, Shawn Moore, and we're back with our Friday interview with successful short-term rental investors. And today we got the pleasure of having Kristi and Nathan Harwell joining us. And so, guys, all the way from Texas, thanks for joining us.
It's our pleasure.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Yes.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Super excited about this conversation. Like I was telling you before we hit record, it's just like you and I are having a conversation and other people get to listen in about the journey into short-term rental investing. I just got to see you guys a little over a month ago here in Utah at our 1% Club meeting. You guys are operating in the very top of your market. And we always say success leaves clues. So we always appreciate you joining us and talking about the journey. So let's get started. And what I like to start with you guys, I love to start with the backstory. I always like to start with where are you from? What was paying the bills? Why did we even get interested in real estate investing in general? And then what led us into and why did we get into the short-term rental game in the first place? And then we'll talk about the journey into it.
Okay. You can go ahead and.
Okay. All right. There is definitely a point in time when I made the decision. I mean, I thought about, loved Robert Kiyosaki and listened to lots of books 20 years ago. And never pulled the trigger on anything. And, but always knew that I should be. Well, I was a partner in electricity, large commercial electricity consulting company. And we were looking to expand what we were doing, get into more renewable energy, more sustainability stuff, some things that just structuring contracts and selling electrons, wasn't sustainable into the, in that industry. Anyway, my partner and I had some disagreements on that at the time. I was just barely a minority owner, right? Just, 49-51 kind of deal, but that comes also with zero control. So I found myself in a business that I owned, I built, and I had no control over my future. And I decided that was going to be the last time. I was never going to have zero control over my financial future while being an owner and a partner and the builder of a business. And so that was when we decided, okay, we're doing this. We're taking the dive. We're going to start in real estate, which we should have done many years ago. Decided on the short term, rental market. And, I was, as a part of that journey, and I see this is where I'll go chasing those butterflies. Part of that journey, I was listening to the Bigger Pockets guys and dabbling in all of the little real estate groups, trying to decide exactly what I wanted to do. And, of course, came across the Vacation Rental Revolution podcast. And just gobbled up every single one of those. And I was listening to everything I could get my hands on. And it came down to, what group. I wanted to be a part of a group. And so I could bounce ideas, learn from people that had experience. And it came down to, okay, I can't remember the name of the little subgroups that Bigger Pockets has, but it was between that. Yeah. Vacation or Vodacy, and Vodacy was a bigger investment, but I decided, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right, and this is where we want to go. And we took the Vodacy dive, And this was back before we had a tenth of the resources we have right now.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it was probably the best decision. I mean, I have my own spreadsheet built out and all those kinds of things. I was pretty close as far as those numbers go to our process. But to have you and the other guys to bounce ideas off of, we looked through how many houses? I don't know how many houses.
Over 20.
Well, over 20 from the time we joined Vodyssey. We looked at 100 probably before we finally, made the decision. And but you guys were right there with us, bouncing ideas, going over the pros and cons of every single one. And to be able to have that kind of, confidence that we were on the right track, that we weren't crazy, that other people had done the same thing, run across the same, and you particularly, you sitting down and going through, we probably went through 10 properties together over the phone and online. And so it was invaluable. And if I'd do it again today in a heartbeat.
Yeah, and you mentioned because you guys joined us back in early on, when we were probably on a year or two into this, right? 2020, 2021, late 20 or 2021-ish.
Yeah.
This was all happening in 2020. I didn't even know he was looking into this.
Yeah.
And then he
Is that true?
told me, and I was like, okay, but how are we going to do that? Because I've worked with the same company for 26 years. I work for a government agency. So my background is totally different. I'm in the transportation traffic safety industry. So it's a total different platform.
Yeah, way different than real estate, right?
Yeah. So I've definitely learned a lot in the past 4 years. But yeah, I guess when we got into Vodyssey, it was in 2020. And we put our house on the market in 21.
Yeah, like 20.
Yeah, and we wanted to sell. Most of our kids, so we have a blended family. We have 7 kiddos, so there's a lot going on in our house, and so most of them had graduated, and then we put our house on the market, and we were going to build, and that's kind of when the market was a little crazy. Lumber was through the roof. It was like, how are we going to build this house? And, the size of house that we were going to build was not really, we
didn't need that big anymore because we had
house.
gone from 7 kids
to 2.
Under
to
2. Under
and they
one.
were about to graduate. And so, long story, but we sold the house. We were going to build the house, decided not to build. So we put that money into our first short-term rental.
Right.
And then it all started there in 21.
And then we started building it, right? It was interesting. I remember some of those first conversations, looking at some of the houses, and we look at lots of houses, so I don't remember them all, the exact details. But I remember when I would get on and talk to Nathan about it, and he'd have all these ideas, and we'd have to say, yeah, I like that. I love that. But I don't like it here. Right. And we were navigating that together. I remember back then, which is what that's why we're around with Vodyssey. We want to be able to help look over your shoulder. And you mentioned, it's funny because when we look back, and I tell people that, the resources we used to have versus the resources we have now, it's like you said, it's like 10 times more now. And we just keep continuing to add, but we do it because of, members like you guys. When somebody have something that's working, and we'll add it. We're like, okay, this is really working. We've got a really good finger on the pulse of the industry because of the collective experience we've got now within Vodyssey. And you guys have seen it kind of progress and really accelerate, but that was the goal. And that's where it's interesting where you say that's kind of where it started. And you're, like Nathan, where you have the background of running a business, building a business, but not having the majority ownership share, which means you don't have much of a say. And you're like, okay, I'm not going to do this again, but I don't want to reinvent the wheel on the next thing I'm going to do. I want to try to figure out how to accelerate my time frame, accelerate my progress, which ultimately comes down to finding somebody else who can help you, and then navigating all the stuff out there, right? That's hard too, right? It's hard to figure out what the best road is. What road are we going to run down? Is this one going to work out, or is the other one going to work out? And so when you just out of like when you said you were diving into it and listening to all that stuff, like a Bigger Pockets, for example, is a platform that they talk about a lot of different asset classes, a lot of different things in real estate. How did you decide that short-term rentals were something you wanted to do? Because it doesn't sound like with either of you that was really in the background.
Yeah, no.
So you heard me mention we have 7 kids between us, and when we would go on vacation, we would go with other families and our buddies, our kids' buddies and stuff.
Yeah.
And so we had to rent big places, and certainly weren't doing it at a hotel. And so we were renting short-term rentals, and we would go to Galveston and we would be like, man, this place is great.
Yeah.
We should do, and so I'd start talking to the owners, and asking them questions about, those things. And then we went to Arkansas, and we were like, golly, this is great. I wish we could buy a place here and we could rent it out, And then, so that after 3 years of those conversations with one of the families that we would go with, I was like, you know what? We're going to do, this is what we want to do. We want to get at places we want to go and rent them out. These are our investments, and if we do it right, heck, when we retire, we can live anywhere in the country a couple months a year, wherever we want to go. But anyways, so that's kind of how it happened, just from us living, experiencing great short-term rentals around the country.
Yeah, it's interesting how often that's what leads investors into this asset class, is just being a consumer of it, right? And for different reasons, like you guys said, you've got 7 kids. And I mean, that's a lot to travel with, right? And like you said, and when you add additional families and their friends, like hotels, just, it gets super expensive really fast. Nobody's together. You got, kids in different rooms by themselves, which is not ideal. And so it's nice to be able to, which is why I always say there's room for hotels, there's room for short-term rentals in the hospitality game. They're not, neither one of them really competes with each other. Right. And so it's interesting how that's what gets us interested in it. So now let's talk to me about, because the next step is selecting the market, right? You said, hey, it would be fun to have all these properties across the, different areas that we like to visit. We can go anywhere we want at different times of the year, which is a great, right? That's how we built our portfolio with Teresa and I and the kids. It's like we buy them in these areas, but you guys stayed pretty close to home at the first one, right? So talk to me.
We're
right?
As the irony would have it.
Yes. We're in the property that we purchased. This is it. We love it. We would love to live here. I want to stay the night here tonight. It's open, but we wanted to be close to home, and we wanted to be hands-on with everything. And so we wanted that experience. And Nathan looked into the market through AirDNA. Oh yeah, we looked everywhere, and I was using actually AirDNA a little bit prior to. Joining on the in Vodacy, and then anyways, that was a great thing when that started with the AirDNA deal. But we wanted to be on lakes, and so I looked at a bunch of lakes, and I mean, I drove all over the state, and I'd combine, electricity consultations and looking at houses. Yeah, and we made a couple of offers. One of them would have been fantastic. I think we even looked at it. It was down on Lake Conroe, and Lake Conroe kind of lagged. Real estate prices down there kind of lagged behind the rest of the state by $100 a square foot. It was crazy. And but then it turned out that was in a HOA that wouldn't allow us to operate there. So so that one fell through. Then we had another one at another lake out Gun Barrel City, and somebody just beat us to the offer. And then my in-laws kept hearing us talk about all of this, and was hearing us look at, and one day overheard us talking, going over a property. Oh yeah. And they were like, what if we did this with you? And so we were like, okay, well, let's talk about it. And they really
a couple of things led to us buying our first one here. They wanted to be a part of it. And number two, we wanted to know the hosting side. We wanted to know what it took to keep and maintain the standard that we demand in this property and all the properties that we own. We wanted to know what that took, so that when we were hired a management company, we knew what was a reasonable expectation and what kind of standard we really could hold them to, because we've done it, and so we knew. And so those were really the two things behind why we ended up buying here. Why we bought our second one here was a guy that was doing renovations in this house. He did these awesome bunk beds upstairs that are built in. He had also completely renovated a house to be an Airbnb right across from the airport. Everything else at that time was about $200 a square foot. And he said, hey, I've got this one over here. My wife and I really want to do a project in this other town right outside of Abilene. I'll sell it to you, $150 a square foot. And so we were like, and we looked, and it's a beautiful property.
Yeah.
And so we said, okay. And we were, we were about to build again and got an offer we couldn't refuse on that. So we sold the land that we were going to build on. Yeah.
And that was our down payment for that
and
property.
So we were like, God is creating, he's moving, the block is in this path, if I could talk right. And, just getting the barriers out of the way. And so we decided, okay, we're going to follow him on this. And here we go. So we are off and running, and now this house is number 6 out of 660 something in this market. And our 3-bedroom, the other one, is number 1 3-bedroom in the market. And we absolutely love it. And we'll go on to the next phase next, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it just, I think it's leading perfectly into that next phase. You're saying, and here's what's interesting, right? I always say there's never a perfect market. There's never perfect properties, but when opportunities present themselves, we can't ignore them. Right. And to your point, that's what was happening for you guys, is these opportunities were coming up, maybe outside of some of the markets that you originally were looking at, but ultimately these properties, even though they're in your hometown, right? They're easy to access, right? You can go over, they're right down the street, essentially, right? And so, and it led to this, what you guys have built, number 6 out of 660, number 1 3-bedroom in the entire market. So you're doing things right. And you started to realize, it sounds like that next phase is, like, I always tell people, when you get into hosting properties, managing your own properties, and I think it's a really good thought to say, hey, listen, I want to know what's reasonable to expect from somebody, right? I don't manage any of my own properties, but I know how and what it takes to manage properties, because I've been doing this for a long time. But I think it's a really good thing to say, hey, listen, I want to know what to expect. Tell me a little bit about, because then the people who stick with it typically really enjoy it. And there's aspects, managing properties always has its challenges, right? But they enjoy it enough and they do a really good job. And they're like, man, there's even more opportunity on the backside of this than as we're building our own portfolio, but also helping other people in this game as well, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that leads us.
But that wasn't the ultimate goal when you started doing it.
No.
Well, we had considered.
We had talked about it.
It was always on our radar.
Yeah.
It was, because we figured out pretty quickly that we really loved
the hospitality,
moving guests. Not just they walk in, this is a beautiful place.
Yeah.
But they walk in and it is, this house is for them that weekend.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And moving them with the music that's playing, with the welcome sign that is, where we've gotten to know them a little bit before they've arrived. Yeah. And just that is what really I love about this industry. I love the real estate. I love, so proud of what we've done with our places, but that's what I really love.
Right.
And yeah, go ahead.
Tell me a couple of those. Like you guys shared a couple stories, because I think that this is what raises the bar more than anything else in our game. Having a great property that's set up beautifully and furnished and everything else, that's almost expected anymore, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. You want to really raise the bar, you raise the experience. And you guys, like you just kind of mentioned it there, Nathan, where you said, we get to know them before they show up. And you guys really do get to know them before they show up. That pre, as soon as they book, you're finding out why they're coming, how you can make it special for them. And you guys go and take, one or two extra steps to do that. And you have guests that are just like, man, if we ever come to this area, we're going to Kristi and Nate's house. I mean, that's what we're doing. Right. And it's not, there's even to the point where you were telling us a story when we were in Utah about somebody that was coming in for a funeral, and how you made it special for them and you connected with them, and you guys, just hearing you tell those stories and tell me a little bit about that, because it's what I think that if somebody could hear and listen in on what it takes, you're not moving heaven and earth to do this. You're not, but it feels like you are to the guest. Like the extra effort that you take to do this, everybody, in my opinion, should be doing this on the hospitality side. But because to the guest, they feel like the most important person. They feel like that you went completely out of your way, which you guys do, but it's not. It doesn't take you. You're still, you're still working. You're still doing your stuff. It's not like you have to, stop everything. So take me through kind of how you guys get to know them a little bit on the front end, and what you do to try to deliver some of those experiences when they do check in.
So some of the things that we do, we have a huge chalkboard, a framed chalkboard when they walk in. It's going to be the first thing that they see. In the dining room area, it's pretty big. It's like 24 by 36. So we always personalize the message to them. Like we talked about, we find out a couple of things. We let them, we ask them, what brings you to the Abilene area? Are you celebrating something special? And they'll share that with us. Like, we've never had a guest say like, I don't want to tell you anything. And, we just always say, we like to add some personal touches to the home. That's kind of how we lead it off. And then we, ask them just a couple of small questions, and they tell us. And so then we kind of go a little bit above and beyond. And like, for example, the family that was gathering for a memorial for their uncle, we read the obituary. We found out a little bit about him. And, we just did a little memorial on the chalkboard, and, we found out that he was in the oil industry and that he was a musician. As a hobby, he liked to play and write music. And so, we just put a little scripture on there, something that spoke to us and that we wanted to, we wanted it to speak to the family when they walked in, that they felt a place of comfort and solitude when they walked in the home. And so I drew, an oil rig and music notes and a guitar, and, put his name in memory of and the scripture. And they, I can't remember if they called or texted, but they were like, we were just like moved to tears, when we walked in. And of course we had the music playing. It was nice, calm. I don't remember what music we did exactly, but probably,
it wasn't elevator.
It wasn't elevator music. It wasn't,
it was a good,
it wasn't 80s rock, music. But it was just, like
wasn't
rock and roll. But
it was appropriate music.
And then funny thing is, I mean, this is, we're not a super small town. We call it, a small city in Texas. But my sister's friend, who she was roommates with for a couple years, 15 years ago, she called her and she was like, hey, come over. I'm in town. I think she lives in Utah. And she was like, hey, I'm in town. We're having a memorial for my uncle, and we're all over here at this amazing Airbnb, And she was explaining it to my sister, and she said, where are you? And she explained the location. She goes, that's my sister's and husband. That's their Airbnb. She was like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. They had fresh baked my mom had made some kind of, I don't remember, bread for them. And we had that here also. And they were out in the back, several of the family members played music. They were in the backyard. We have the backyard all lit up, a couple of different fire pit areas. And I mean, they said this was the perfect place for the perfect weekend for the occasion that they were celebrating for their family.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And that, just hearing that, and I know you have multiple stories like that because you guys do that with every guest, and it starts with just a couple questions. Hey, we really want to make your stay special.
Like 30 minutes extra time, to do that.
Right. But they won't stop. They won't ever forget it. They won't stop talking about it because of the extra, like you said, a little like 30 minutes extra time to take the time to get to know them, take the time to get to know why they're coming in and how you can make it special for them. And then almost everything else is secondary, right? Yeah. Like it's like, and I'll tell you what it also does, and we talked a little bit about this, and I don't know if you've experienced this yet, but it also buys you some grace if there is something that happens in the property, right?
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, sometimes you can't control what's going to happen. One time we had a 50-foot tall red oak in the front yard, and it fell one weekend in a storm. Not that somebody would ding you for that. But I mean, lots of stuff. Air conditioner broke.
But if a toilet quits working or, something's leaking or a cabinet door falls off or something, like you said, a lot of things are so uncontrollable in our industry, that offers some grace, It's like these people go above and beyond for this experience. And that's what it's all about, is the experience. It's not just a house with some beds for people to come in and lay their head on. It's beyond so much more. And that's what we love doing. And that's what we love offering. And, we're learning more and more how to do that in this industry. And that's what's so awesome about this industry, because it's like anything goes.
Right. And the sky's the limit, right? You can get, and I think a lot of times people are so worried about leaving their personal touches and, doing the things that we would love to see on our side, like even to the point of like, it's like, oh, should I leave a scripture or not? What if and just leaning in with who we are and what we do, people love it. Right. Yeah. And people appreciate it. And so I love that. Like, I love talking about this aspect more than any other aspect of the short-term rental game, because one, it's really, really fun to be a part of a lot of major milestones, a lot of major memories for people. And even, we're a small part of that. And really, we're not. We're a big part of it sometimes, right? Yeah. Whether it's honeymoons, whether it's engagements. We've had a couple people get engaged at our property. I mean, they'll never forget those times. And if we know that and we can be a part of that and make that experience that much better and, and have our little piece of making it better, it's just really fun to be a part of that many experiences. But also, to be honest, it's what moves the needle as far as profitability and repeat customers and all those different things that we do on the business side of life too, right? Customer experience is our business. And the more and more I wish I could just talk about this all day, every day. Right. And so I can get really long winded on this because, but it's not that big of an extra deal, right?
No, I mean, we place a lot of importance on it, but it's not. I mean, you just get to know people. I mean, that's really what it amounts to. They're coming to stay at your house. It's an intimate thing to begin with. Yeah. You've poured your heart and soul into this place, and people are coming, and we care about them having a great experience, and we want to get to know them a little bit, and you know what? People talk about, I don't want to do an Airbnb. I don't want to spend all the money on nice furnishings and stuff like that. When you get to, the only times we've had a bad experience is when we haven't gotten to know the people beforehand. Right. It's like a door-to-door sales bunch that's selling, alarm systems.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
When we get to know the people, people take care of your property.
Communication's great. The way they treat the property and respect your property is amazing. I mean, you know, like I said, we have 7 kids. You know, they did not treat our property. So.
Yeah, our own house. But
so, you know, like Nathan said, when you do get to know them and you get on that personal level with them, everything else falls into place.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
What I was going to add to that is like that is a question and a hesitation a lot of people have, and a question they have all the time is, how much should I invest in this? Like, what if stuff gets broke? I don't know if I should buy the nicest stuff. I don't know if I should do this. And I always tell them, the more we invest in our properties, the nicer stuff we put in there at every step of the way, the better the experience is, the better people treat your property.
Oh yeah.
And it's crazy because they're going to walk in and be like, man, this is awesome. These guys really cared about us coming in. People appreciate that when they've got the nice stuff to use. We don't get skimp on anything. And then you raise the bar with communication and the experience. And people are like, I mean, we've had people where they actually break something by accident and they go to the store and replace it, right?
Yeah,
we don't even have to say anything.
Better than that was there.
Yeah. They go replace it with something brand new.
Yeah. Just happened recently.
Mm-hmm.
But, and these guys, they come to town all the time and they always look for one of our houses to stay at. And that kind of leads us to the next chapter.
Yeah.
So talk to me about next. So we got the 2 properties going, doing great with them. And then chapter number 3 is let's lead into that. What it's really led to and what you guys have built.
So it started in 2024. If you would have asked me if any of this would have happened
started in 2023.
Yeah, with our relationship with Blake and Julie. But in January, so we were approached by a management company. You know, we were on their prospect list to manage our property. You know, and things were getting really busy, hectic, our jobs. You know, Nathan had partnered with a new company. I was in a new position, you know, and having to travel a lot. And so we were like, okay, maybe we should look into this. And so I had met with her. She came and looked at this property and she knew, you know, what we did and, you know, the extra mile that we went with our property. Yeah. And so they loved this property and we weren't ready to pull the trigger there. We just weren't quite ready to hand it over to a management company because we just weren't ready.
And if there was one that we were going to, it would have been these guys. You know, I knew Blake from way back. We played softball together on some really, really good softball teams back in the day and had a lot of respect for him. He's built a couple of businesses and just
amazing
a great
business
guy.
Owners and great people.
Yeah. And, you know, so they had been talking to us, you know, on pretty steadily for
we've been on their radar since they started their business last September.
And finally, we got a call. Well, this is kind of ironic. We had a bad night. Something happened, and we were having to come over here and do all the cleaning because it is hard finding cleaners, right? I mean, this is, you know, that do a good job. And something happened. We were having to come and deal with the cleaning or whatever on a Sunday night. And we were like, I told her, maybe I'll call him tomorrow and just talk to him a little bit more.
Negotiate. You know? Negotiate is what it means for that. Right. He's in sales.
Yes, negotiate. But before I could call him, he called me and said, hey, y'all want to buy this from us? So we thought about it for about 2 seconds and said, okay, yes. Because it had always been on our radar. We love it.
Yes. Let me say this. So it was on our radar after I retired in about 3 years.
Right.
I'm not
today.
Yeah, we'll make this clear. I'm not retired yet.
Nor am I, but I was in a position where, you know, we felt like we could systemize some things. And, you know, because we've done it, we felt like we could systemize some things and smooth it out and be able to do both things. Mm-hmm. Plus, you know, back in the back of my mind, there's this whole thing that I tell myself, and you know how life goes on and we fall back into some things. I was telling myself, you know, the voices in the back of my head, hey, you're never going to be completely reliant on other partners again. And and these guys are great. It's a great company, business all over the United States, and great partners. But, you never know. And so we wanted, I thought, well, we can kind of get started in this right now. Well, so we went from 2 to 20 roughly properties overnight. In that transition, lost a couple that either they didn't see eye to eye with us, or we didn't see eye to eye with them. Right. And now we've built back to 27 of the right property owners and the right properties. And we've got people calling almost every day. It seems like, hey, we want to, learn more. But so we bought B&B Hosting, and we are, we've worked on some of those automations, and the thing that we were most excited about and the biggest challenge was going to be, how do we duplicate our hospitality?
Yes.
The experience.
Because the cleaning and all that, it is a challenge, and it's very important. We have very high cleaning standards. Mm-hmm. There can't be a hair. If there's a hair, one hair anywhere, then the whole place is dirty. Can't have a hair. But and then there's some other quirks probably that I have about cleaning. But all of that is very, very important. That's operational service stuff, black and white. These things have to be. The full color piece is the hospitality piece, and figuring out how to. Kristi can't go and draw murals on every single on 27 chalkboards.
No.
Yeah.
Especially if we have 19 check-ins and that just can't happen.
Yeah.
So we've had to figure that out, and we moved the boards to a digital board, so on every single TV, when somebody walks in, the appropriate music is playing. The welcome is personalized to them still.
Yeah. It's just not on a chalkboard. It's on a digital.
Right.
It's on TV.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, we pick the right music, this one. And part of those questions too, when we ask, what can we do to make it more special? If they're coming in for a birthday, hey, can we source you a local bakery, birthday cake?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Get that over there. What else does what's your mom's favorite stuff? And so this a guest last week or the week before,
2 weeks ago,
she her mom loved Mexico. She loved mimosas and margaritas. And anyway,
so we did like a little fiesta theme on the board and music.
Yeah,
and left her like a little mini mimosa bar in the fridge, and
all within that 10% of the one night.
Yep.
That's one lesson I never forgot from our Vodacy training. 10% of one night.
And then they asked about a local baker. So now we've added on these add-ons to our digital guidebooks.
They can buy them right from the guidebook.
They can buy them from there. We're partnering with some local bakers that are friends of mine who do amazing work. And we were able to get them a cake. It was here setting for them. They paid for it. So that didn't come out of us, but we did get a percentage out of that. And so. But
they loved.
It was amazing.
The setup, and it was extra. But with this, we are able to do that.
Yeah.
Among 27 properties. Mm-hmm. And, we have a house manager that made sure everything got delivered and set up appropriately. She got a great card for her.
Yeah.
That was really funny. And they loved it. Her mom, they went nuts.
Yeah.
And, it was extra. But that's fun.
Right.
That's fun. We love doing that. And, honestly, 5-star reviews are everybody's goal. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants 5-star reviews. But 5-star reviews are kind of like, they haven't been asked for a review, blah, 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 for the most part. I mean, they've become a commodity, honestly. So we really go for the passion review, which is a paragraph or 2 paragraphs. It's not great place to stay, highly recommend.
Right.
We'll be here again. That's the copy and paste review. And so our target is that passion review, where the guest describes their feeling, describes the property better than we can.
Oh yeah.
We try to use their descriptions in our listing, in the description of our property, because I can't describe it as good as they can. And it's not as authentic. I couldn't get away with saying what they say and have people believe it,
Yep, exactly. That could be my favorite part of any of the podcasts I've had, is that last 2 minutes of saying, hey, listen, 5-star reviews, it's everybody's goal. They become a commodity. We go for the passion review. Like 5-star review is not good enough for us anymore. Like we're looking for that passion review. I love that. Like I love that that's what the goal is. And obviously you guys are delivering it. And it's really exciting to hear you talk about how you're able to say, okay, there's things that we could do when we had our own 2 properties. Now we've got 27 properties in a management company that we own. How are we going to make sure that doesn't slip? How are we going to do this same things at scale? And you're figuring it out, right? And figuring out, we can't draw chalkboard murals on all the properties, but we can use, the technology with, putting all this stuff on the TV and still putting together, really great, like the mimosa bar. And, so you're figuring out how to do that at scale. So what's the ultimate goal with the B&B, what is it? B&B hosting, right?
Yes,
B&B hosting.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, ultimately, we want to get it down here. But man, we want to deliver that. One of the biggest problems that we hear, one of the biggest complaints that we hear amongst our community is, man, we tried a hosting company and it just, they just didn't cut it. We had to fire them in 2 weeks. We had to fire them in a month, So, and that was our deal. We weren't going to hire a hosting company because we were just afraid that
we didn't want whoever we hired,
we hired would not care as much as we did and would not, anyways, about every detail. And there's, cleaners are a challenge, man. You gotta have direct oversight. It's tough to work with 5 different cleaning companies, and get 5 different results and all those things. So there's, we're working through some of these challenges because also to us, the outside is as important as the inside.
Oh yeah.
Right.
When it's not more sometimes. Yeah. Depending on your property.
When somebody walks outside, we want them to go, wow, this is clean.
Yeah.
And so, all of those things are things that we're working on systemizing. We're willing to do whatever it takes on those things, coaching other owners and finding the owners that are like-minded. Yeah. Hey, listen, we want to be the best along with you. Let's go. Help us.
And that's important to get an owner and work with an owner. Like you'll find that there's some owners that just aren't. We assume that everybody wants to be the best. There's people that won't invest in being the best, right? You assume that anybody you talk to is like, I want to do it, but that's not really true, right? That's not the case. Like you said, there's some that you didn't roll over because you just didn't see eye to eye on the vision.
Right. And you have in this industry, you have good, you have better, and you have best. And that's what we explain to people. It's like, we want to be the best, like with everything, inside, outside, experience, the property. Just like the lady that came and looked at this house right before, when she walked in, she was like, oh my gosh, this is not what I expected. She was
a cleaner we were interviewing.
Yeah, not that the outside of the house is bad, but it's, we're in a nice, quaint neighborhood. It's a brick home,
That's the thing. The real estate for most real estate is real estate. Yes, there are special houses and special, designs and stuff like that. Yeah. But when you have the special house and you have the special design, the real estate is the real estate. How do you get that next level? What makes this real estate next level. Does that
Right.
make any sense? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah,
But-
absolutely. Like you said, and it's fun when somebody does walk in and they say, man, I didn't, this is like, I almost didn't expect this, right?
Yeah.
They just, you're raising the bar at all levels. Even like you said, the cleanliness outside, you're advertising outdoor living area and people that are going to go sit around fire pits and they're going to go hang out outside. And that has to be just as clean and look just as immaculate as the inside, right? And it's the little things that people, they're like, okay, I'm going to make sure the inside of the house is clean, but they forget about the outside in some areas that are windy. And I know Texas has a little bit of wind once in a while. You got to get dust on stuff, right?
Everywhere.
Yes.
You're right. So making
sometimes.
sure that it's clean is important.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's awesome, guys. This is, I love this conversation. I love where it went. And really emphasizing that point of how people can raise the bar. And if you want, and to your point as well, is saying, hey, listen, as an owner, it's not just the management partner. It's not the hosting company. It's like you guys have to have the cooperation of the owner. Most of us are owners and own, these properties. You guys started as being owners, realizing what the expectations were. You're kind of setting your own bar. And then, you're about ready to offload the property. And before you know it, you bought a dang management company.
Yeah. And
I was going to call you and have you manage mine. You want me to take over your whole thing. So it's funny how things work out, right?
Yeah. And we actually partnered. So we've got another partner with 8 more listings, five properties, 8 listings. You guys are going to keep growing. I mean, I can't wait to see what the future brings. You need to come in the markets that I've got my properties. That's our plan. Our plan.
Yeah.
We want to make sure though that we can deliver on what we're doing here before we go and take it to the world.
Elsewhere.
But we do want to take it to the world. We do.
If it's something special and it's something different, like you said, the property management industry has a bad rap, and we want to change that and deliver something that's never been delivered before. So
there are a lot of good property management companies out there. She doesn't mean to say that. There are.
Yes.
No, I'll back Kristi up on this. I mean, when I interview 10 property managers, I might find 1 or 2 that I would even be willing to work with and move forward with. You're right. There are good ones out there. Absolutely. But it is the Achilles heel of this business is getting a management partner to deliver an amazing experience every single time and care like we do as owners, right? It's why a lot of the top properties are self-managed, because it is very, very difficult to find property management hosting companies that are they're in it to really maximize each individual asset. So I 100% agree. And I think that there's a need in the marketplace. I love when we talk to people like you guys who take it really serious, because I get excited because that is a part of this industry that needs the bar raised. We need to raise the bar, right? There's, as hosts, we're trying to raise the bar. Some people are going to, some people aren't. It's going to be the reality is there's going to be some management companies that will, there's going to be some that won't. And that's why there's always room to operate at the top, because the levers you need to pull to operate at the top, a lot of people aren't willing to do it, or they think it's harder than it is. I always say, operating at the top is no harder than operating in the middle. You just make a hell of a lot more money. So why not?
That's exactly.
Why not do the things to put more money in your pocket, right?
In this industry, it's not going anywhere. It's not going away. If anything, it's going at lightning speed. It's evolving. Just this year, just all the changes and everything that we've learned, and a lot of things our eyes have been open to just the past month.
There will be changes. There's people that throw up a house and just, they're like, oh, let's get an Airbnb, we've got this house sitting over here. Let's make it an Airbnb. Yeah. Those are going to eventually go by the wayside. I honestly think that as companies that hopefully do, have the same passion that we do in delivering the entire experience, pre-check to post-check, places like Airbnb, and VRBO will not be the first place people go.
Right. Right. Because, and you find that some of the best hosting management companies, they almost don't, like I have a property in Utah with a really good management partner, and they operate 100% on direct bookings. Like, I haven't got a booking on Airbnb in 3 years on this property, and it's on Airbnb, but they do such a great job with direct bookings. The people who go to this area, they've got a great reputation. They call them up and they say, I want to stay in one of those properties. And they've done a great job. Same as you guys. Like, people that have had that experience, they're calling you back up and saying, hey, we want to stay in one of your properties. Mm-hmm. What do we have? Yeah, it's awesome.
That is our goal.
Yeah. Well, I have no doubt you're going to reach that goal. It's been fun really watching you guys like progress, get into, thinking about getting into the game, jumping into the game, getting those first couple properties, getting into the management side of it. It's really, really fun to watch that. And you guys are again, raising the bar across the board in the industry, which, is always exciting for me to see. And it's always I'm really appreciative of you being able to come on and have this type of conversation where everybody else can listen in. So first and foremost, thanks for doing that for me today. That's been awesome.
Thanks for having us.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you for years of wisdom and support.
You're very welcome.
Just the guidance and the community and the relationships that we've built through Vodacy has been so amazing. And that's, just the icing on the cake.
That's awesome. That makes me smile. It makes me happy. I appreciate you saying that. We love being part of that journey, and it's always fun. And just like we said, just sharing everything, right? Being a part of all of that has been really fun for us. And in seeing you guys progress and do what you guys do, I always just kind of feel like I'm just kind of passing the baton, and most of you are running way past me. So that's always exciting. So it's fun to watch. So guys, at the end of the episodes, every episode, I ask you the one final question. And that is, if you could rewind the clock and you had to go back and give your younger self some advice, what would that be?
Well, you say it all the time.
What?
That you wish you would have just started something.
Oh, like yeah, no question. Yeah. I would,
invest
don't
earlier.
Sit around and think about it and wait and know I should do it, but not do it. I'm not ready.
Right.
We'll be ready in a year. We got to have this happen first.
If you do
this has got to happen first. Hey, our lives were in, upheaval at the time when we finally said, it was not the right time. It is the time when
it was probably the worst time.
Yeah.
If anything.
It was a time when I personally, and people all the time, make that excuse. Lee, I want to, but I just can't right now. Mm-hmm. I can't right now. And I had said that enough times. Yeah. And I was like, nope. Now I'm just doing
We're doing it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love that advice. And I love that you brought up that the timing wasn't perfect. People wait for the right time. That time never comes. The right time is when you just you're going to sit and wait forever. And one of our members, Dave, he talked about it. And I think I can't remember, maybe it was on one of my coaching calls, but he was talking about saying, it's really, really scary to take that first step. But the scariest thing he could ever think about is being that same person in the same spot, thinking about the same thing, 2 or 5, 3, 4, 5 years from now, and not making a move. And he said, I got to the point where I just realized the timing's never going to be perfect.
Right.
And, and I want to take that leap. And we hear that so often. When I ask that question, I would say 80% of the answers are a version of that. And so, those of you listening, that's why I ask it, because I know there's a lot of people that, we've all done it. We've all sat on the sidelines. We've all got comfortable, trying to wait for the right time for something, and right time just doesn't ever happen. Right. But when you decide to take action, like you guys said, opportunities are placed in front of us. Mm-hmm. We start to learn how to take advantage of those opportunities, and we start moving forward. Not always easy. There's times we have to roll up our sleeves and we're shaking our heads saying, man, I can't believe I'm doing this, or I don't know why I did this. And we keep forging forward and looking back and saying, man, look what we just did. In 3 years' time, look what you guys have done. And so congratulations. It's freaking awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Lots of mornings, probably a month straight of after work, getting on software, setting up 20-something properties till 3 a.m., 4 a.m., literally for a month, and then back up at 6 or 7 and going at actual work again.
Our day job.
Yeah.
Right. The day job that's paying the bills that we're not retired from yet. And so, yeah, I mean, you're working double time, and it is, but that's what it takes. At the end of the day, anybody that wants to sell you the easy button, anybody that acts like that's not a piece of the puzzle is lying to you all day long, every day. Like it is a big piece of the puzzle is being able to roll up your sleeves, put in the time, put in the effort. And mostly times you don't want to do it, right? Like you said, you get calls at Sunday evening when you want to spend it with the family, or early mornings before you have to go to the day job we're working like multiple hours and multiple jobs at the same time to put this stuff together. But okay, so I'll just ask you guys. One of the things I always ask when we look back is like, would you do it again? Like, was it worth it?
100%.
Absolutely, yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would do every bit of it again.
Yeah.
Including joining Vodyssey. That was I can't and I know that I'm just not trying to make a commercial or anything, right? But because I know that it sounds like maybe that, but honestly, I would not want to do this again without that.
Oh yeah.
The experience and who knows what would have happened. I mean, we almost made a huge mistake, a huge mistake. And we all together in the beginning, I don't know if you remember this house, there was 3 outhouses and 6 units we could have had on this one property. Yeah. And I don't know if you remember this one or not, but
I don't remember this one. Well,
we, at the very beginning, we all were like, hey, this is intriguing. And then we started sitting down and going through some stuff and working through the numbers and working through the themes. And I mean, a lot of that was us, but I would bounce things off of you. And I can't remember who our membership coordinator was at that time, like our liaison or whatever. But, we'd bounce things off, and we all came to the conclusion, 3 days left in the option period. We better cut the cord on this.
Cut the cord. Yeah.
And we did, and thank goodness, because then the experience of this house and all that we did here and all of the time and effort and all of that kind of stuff, I can't imagine this times the size of that place. Oh my goodness. It could have been a disaster. Anyway.
Could have been overwhelming. Yeah.
We feel like Vodyssey saved us 1,000 times what we probably would have lost.
Because it was so many things we didn't know, and just the education, the advice, and yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
So valuable. Anyway, sorry.
No, I love it. I appreciate you saying that. It makes me happy to hear that. And it's obviously our goal is to one, accelerate your progress, but also to mitigate the risk, right? Like you said, you haven't done this before. We've, and every deal is a little bit different, right? And like with every time you look at one, as many deals as we've looked at, as many deals as we bought in the past, everyone has their own challenges. Everyone has, their little, nuances that you have to navigate. And it's nice to be able to navigate that with people. So I appreciate you saying that as well. So guys, those of you listening, these conversations are always super valuable. I learn so much when we have them. I know that you guys listening, because you guys give us feedback. We know how valuable your time is, and we appreciate you spending it with us. And we know how much you like these conversations. And so thanks for spending it with us today. At the end of all these episodes, I ask you 2 favors. The first one is to go, if you've got somebody else that would like to be a part of these conversations, to share the show. We don't run ads and sponsorships on the show. So the only way that this show grows is if you guys share it with other people that will want to walk into this game with their eyes wide open. And so if, that's the first favor I ask. If you have more than 30 seconds while you're thinking about that, leave us a review. And on whatever platform you're watching or listening on, give us a thumbs up. Those things help us a lot. And the final, most important thing that I ask you guys at the end of every episode is pick that one thing you can do today, start building that life you don't want to take a vacation from. Cheers, my friends.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Vacation Rental Revolution podcast. Share this with other people you think need to hear about it. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Hey Grace, is there a website?
Yes! For more amazing content and expert advice, visit Vodyssey.com.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.